playlist, some jazz on my playlist, the blues on my playlist, and some Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion to sprinkle it in there as
Some
well.
bacon.
So yeah, we have a very well-rounded playlist.
Okay, so that's a part of who we are. We're all well-rounded in what we listen to. Chef, what's on your playlist when you're in there whipping up those dishes?
It's a great question, Dr. Jackie. Because I cook and I listen to different things with the vibe. On Sunday, yesterday, I was meal prepping. I'm going full on gospel. I got my Tasha Cobb, Leonard, a little Kirk Franklin up in there, and a big hip hop fan. I grew up in the '90s, so '80s, '90s, so a little Jay in there, some stuff that I listen to with a different ear. But I've really been on my '70s vibe lately, my '70s soul vibe. That gets me through all the time. So a lot of mix, and I bring it home in the kitchen on Sunday.
All right, bringing it home in the kitchen on Sunday. We're going to have a one-on-one with this amazing lady, Dee Barnes. But Dee, tell us a little bit about what's on your playlist.
Well, first of all, happy Black History Month to everybody. Okay. And my playlist is a little mix of everything. I love Sarah Vaughan. I have Billie Holiday on there, Louis Armstrong. I love that old school mix with the jazz greats. And then I have a lot of hip hop, of course, especially with it being the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So I have a lot of old school on there. And, I sprinkle in some new school. I also listen to a lot of classic rock. So, I'll have some bands on there too, like, Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and a few others on there. And of course, my favorite, Jimi Hendrix. Gotta put Jimi Hendrix in the mix for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. I bet you're sometimes in the living room with that mean air guitar, just strumming away.
Embarrassing, but yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So Charlotte Avery, come on in for a second. Tell us what's on your playlist. Charlotte, what are you listening to these days?
I'm listening to New Edition. I'm listening to Stevie Wonder. I'm listening to Michael Jackson. I'm listening to some Beyonce, Bruno Mars. I like all kinds of music. I like Ella Fitzgerald, Carmen McRae. I mean, I like all kinds of music. So yeah, I'm just, and I'm an 80s kind of girl as far as music too, like all the R&Bs and Mary J. Blige, even like older Jodeci and Drew Hill. Like, yeah, that's me.
Okay, so y'all have all taken us all the way back to some of the greats when it comes to music. I mean, I think that that's a very big part of who we are. So let me ask you this, as we talk a lot about balance and, how we get into this space of needing to just be at ease with life and all of that. I'm going to ask Charlotte, and then I'll make this round robin. Charlotte, so what is your go-to song when you are really in that space of seeking balance or clarity?
I'm playing Beyonce Run the World. Like I'm really like getting into it because that really helps me like get into my work zone, my clean zone. And then, the other thing too is like my kids, like when I like put it on blast and I'm basing it, my kids will come down and dance with me and things like that. So yeah, that's usually my go-to song or something Stevie Wonder. Or even like the Rock With You from Michael Jackson. That's another one of my go-to songs. And my kids love that song too.
Nice. All right. Now, Rock, what's your go-to?
That's when it comes to balance, that's tough. So if I want to feel grateful and grounded, like I said, Tasha Cobb Leonard, I think she changed her name, but her voice really, really helps me sort of understand and, stay grounded in gratitude. Many times when I go hard and I just want to go hard, like this morning, I had a lot of stuff to do today. So I throw on some Jay-Z, some hip hop that really gets me going. And the off and balance for me is like just sounds. Like I like to listen to soundscapes and things that no words, no lyrics, just allow me to sort of meditate in the moment as I walk about. So a little different there.
Absolutely. What about you, Dr. T?
So I'm like Chef Rock. It just kind of depends on where I am and what needs to be balanced. So after a long day, if I'm like in mental overload and I need to kind of reel it back in and woosah, then I'm probably listening to some classical music, or some jazz to kind of make some white space in my brain. But for the most part, anything else in between, you can catch me listening to Prince. Any Prince. I absolutely love Prince. Prince is my favorite artist. So Prince and everything Prince. Purple Prince.
Yes.
She's rocking the Purple Rain moment all the time through every situation that she'll probably go through.
Let's Go Crazy, all of it. Alphabet.
I couldn't wait to. I was gonna say the same thing. Prince is my go-to.
Prince,
he's my favorite. I mean, for balance, really, when I really need that balance, I go for Nina Simone. She just soothes me and excites me, gets me going and thinking. But Prince, definitely my all-time favorite. Yes. So it could be either or. In this house. From Nina.
All right, so let's talk about that for a moment. So, what's everybody's favorite Prince song? Go ahead and kick us off, Dee.
My favorite Prince song, man, there's so many. I love Adore You. I love Sign of the Times. I mean, I'm really into his albums. So, 1999 is one of my favorites. And of course, Purple Rain soundtrack. And anything live, too. I love listening to him play live. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Chef?
Insatiable. Easy. Listen, I was coming into my own. When that song came out. Just met my wife at the moment. That was
Valentine's Day. It is Valentine's.
Wow.
Easy.
Oh, Charlotte, what's your favorite?
Anything off of the Purple Rain album, but also I love Little Red Corvette.
Yes.
All right, Dr. T.
This is a hard one. I mean, Let's Go Crazy, Delirious, Little Red. You just said Little Red Corvette, Raspberry Beret. Like you said, Insatiable. I'm even going back to the old ones, Soft and Wet, For You. The Black Album. I just everything. There's not one yet that I just like. Oh, I don't like that song. Like,
All right, so let's have a little debate because I know that our audience, Prince or Michael Jackson?
Prince.
Oh no, you can't do that.
You can't do that. You cannot do that.
Do that.
As a youngster, I had both. I had Michael Jackson up. I had Prince up. They were like both right there. You know what I mean? You can't.
No,
you grew up on them. Come on. That's not fair.
If I had
a difficult choice, Dr. T.
Yeah, if I had to pick, if you're making me pick, then I'm always gonna pick Prince. I'm always going to go Prince. Just it's hard. It is absolutely hard, but I'm gonna stick with the purple one.
Chef?
I'm gonna break the tie if it is one, Michael. I was in the car last night. I put on a playlist, my 12-year-old son, who I'm trying to hip him. Little Michael came on. Who's Loving You? And he was in his little iPad, but when little Michael came on, he looked, I said, yeah, it's Michael. I mean, Prince, that's really impossible, but I'm gonna go ahead and say, I gotta go with MJ.
Charlotte?
I'm gonna say MJ too. And I love Prince, but you're wrong. You are wrong for making us choose like that.
Right. I agree.
Right.
No. So let me just say, I think it's a part of that coming of age. So I went to 2 concerts as a 5-year-old. My first concert was Michael Jackson and Isles, and my second concert that same year was Tina Turner. So I think a lot of it has to do with coming of age. They've been with me since I was a wee little girl. So it's a part of that entire process of saying, oh man, we can dance to music. No one's gonna stop me. When we come back after the break, I'm gonna have a one-on-one with Dee Barnes because I really want to get into her hip hop vibe. We'll be back after the break.
Check this out. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are investing a record $7 billion into HBCUs. Billions for campus improvements, grants, and debt relief. Billions more for HBCUs, endless possibilities for us.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, we have this debate going. Who's better, Michael Jackson or Prince? And I don't even know if it's who's better. It's who do you like the most? And I know that it's difficult, but there's somebody that we have on our show today, Dee Barnes, who can talk to us a little bit about music and culture and how we all resonate with it. Hey, Dee.
Hey there.
Welcome in. I'm so excited that you are with us today. So you've been in music for quite some time. So talk to us about who you are, your history and love for music, and just where people may know you from, because your vocals are like amazing. I can't sing, so I'm not going to try to do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jackie. Oh man, Dr. Jackie got me over here smiling and cheesing it up. But my history is the typical hip hop upbringing. I grew up in New York, and I was there when like the roots of hip hop began. From the late 70s to early 80s. And same thing when I came out to California, it was the same thing. I got to see how hip hop developed and grew, within the community, within the streets, to the clubs, just the whole progression of it. In my house, my mom was a huge Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Al Green. Mm-hmm. Those three were like constantly playing. And when I listen to music now and see how the progression goes with sampling, because we were just talking about that earlier, about how that the music of hip hop was based on the early, grooves in the 70s and the 80s. So it's almost like we were able to, no, it is like that actually. We were able to introduce those songs that, and take them from the home and bring them to a new generation, introduce them to a new generation by, sampling some of the greatest, especially someone like James Brown, who, they consider like the godfather of hip hop, because, a lot of his samples were used in music, but it also gives us quite a knowledge of music, a musical history, because we all get it from our parents. Mm-hmm. We all started with our parents' record collection, and it started from there. And my mom had the best. I have some of her records now. I'm sorry, Mom, but they were great. Can't give them up. But yeah, I think that the whole thing with music, it bridges generations. You know what I mean? It makes them, I don't know, like interconnect. You know what I mean? It just takes
for sure.
Yeah.
I think that what you're saying makes perfectly good sense. As you were talking about the record collections, I went back to Houston over the Christmas holidays, and I brought back all of the music. And I was like, oh my God, Lou Rawls, Jerry Butler, the Iceman, the Commodores, I still have like original Natalie Cole. And I was like, oh my God, Keeping the Light, Shining in the Window. All of these are very important dynamics and components, Dee, related to music as you talk about what we bring to our children. So let me ask you this question, because I noticed that younger generations are listening to, I won't say more explicit music, but more suggestive music. So where do we draw the line, Dee, as it relates to when kids should start to listen to certain types of music and the connotations that it has?
Well, to back up a little bit with the explicit music, I want to say each generation is listening to explicit music, because when I was talking about that record collection, for instance, there were the back in the day they called them party records.
Mm-hmm.
Had like Dolomite, for instance. Those are explicit. Red Fox was explicit. Mom's Mabley, the comedy, all these comedy albums were very explicit with a mixture of music, involved. And so when you say that it's more explicit now, I think it's just maybe there's more of it, but it's always been there. It's always been there. And so can you repeat your question again about the other part? I want to make sure I answer the other part.
Sure. No, it was that whole thing about when is a good time to let kids start listening to certain things. Some music is more suggestive than other. They have radio versions of music, and oftentimes trying to keep that balance between what we play in the car because we need to wind down, but Junior in the back seat, you just picked him up from school.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Right. Well, they're going to find the music anyway, especially now this generation has the internet. They have so much access to everything. They're going to find that music, even if we try to hide it. And the more you try to hide it, the more they will find it. So I think that we should always keep an open dialogue with our children and have that conversation. They should be able to, come to you and talk to you about whatever. My daughters now who are older, but they exposed me to a lot of music too that I thought was, okay. And then I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm sorry, because I drove her crazy with certain types of music that I played that she didn't like. But that conversation should always be an open one. And just to, there's no really, you don't want your children too young listening to explicit music, but at the same time, they're going to hear it. So you want to be able to have that dialogue with them, to have that talk about what's appropriate, what's not. And then that leads to a whole other, conversations. Which I think is good. I think it's good. They're going to find out that, kids are growing up, unfortunately, faster and faster these days. So I think it's good for them to, if they're going to be exposed to it, for you to also be exposed to it, so you can know how to have that conversation with them.
Oh, I agree. So I'm going to bring Charlotte Avery into this conversation because as our resident mom strategist, she's a mom of 7, wife of 1. That entire process, Charlotte, of your littles, middles, and older kids, that music and what you allow them to listen to, and definitely listening to it before they hear it. I mean, we used to watch movies before we let our nieces watch them. Talk to us about your process in engaging all of your age group, your children, and what you do with families as it relates to music.
So, our children are various ages. And I mean, right now they're like 9 to 19, right? And so like the music that my 19-year-old and my big kids are listening to versus the music that, the littles and middles are listening to, I have to be honest and tell you that, they're really kind of listening to all of the same music. But what I do is, even with movies, and I think you just said this, even with movies, like I watch movies first before my children watch them, even cartoon movies. I watch them all before my children watch them. So if I hear my bigger kids listening to certain music, because I mean, listen, my kids are everywhere all at the same time. I mean, some of them are upstairs, some of them are downstairs. When Lim comes home from college, he's in his room, like blasting all kinds of music or whatever. And so I'll sometimes go in his room and I'll sit there and listen to the words. But what I also do is I make them be accountable for what they're listening to. And look, especially with my bigs and my middles, I always say, do you want your little siblings, your younger siblings listening to this? Is that okay? And they'll be like, no, Mom. And I'm like, well, then you probably want to listen to this while you're riding in the car or, when you're with your friends that are your age. But if you know that you don't think that your younger sibling should be listening to this, then okay, let's not listen to it right now. It doesn't mean that you can't listen to it. It just means you have to remember who is in the mix. And so, not only do I hold myself and my husband responsible and accountable, but I hold everybody within our space accountable for what they're listening to. And I always ask them too, so you're listening to this music with these curse words or whatever, like, how is this making you feel? Like, where's it taking you in your mind space and your heart space, just so that they're aware, because I mean, music is a very powerful tool. I mean, it does so many things. It makes us laugh. It makes us cry. It makes us, just want to get up and dance. It makes us work harder and smarter. And music has so many effects on us, therapeutic and all kinds. And so it's really, I ask my children, even when I'm listening to music myself, like, is this the music that I want to make me feel a particular kind of way? Or is this music that's just making me angry and bringing me down? And so I just, I ask myself those questions. I try to listen to things first. But here's the thing. Rarely am I ever listening to something first, because I'm really tuning in because I heard them play it. So now after I've heard them play it, now I've got to dissect what they've heard. So really, honestly, it's a learning experience for all of us together.
I like that aspect of it. You both are saying some things that really help us be able to identify not only the music that we listen to, but how we allow it to permeate our homes and saturate our minds and fill us in our soul, because that can go awry really, really quickly. Have either of you ever had an opportunity with your kids when you've had to say, we're not listening to that, and you just turn it off completely, or something will be playing when you're in the car and then you'll get in the car with your kids like, oh man, I forgot to turn that off. Those are those kind of moments. Dee, talk to us about how do we, I won't necessarily say how do we keep music safe while at the same time introducing our kids to the culture, but in what ways do we kind of blend the styles of music together so that everybody feels good about having a musical experience?
Well, I think too, it's a lot like she was saying earlier, that sometimes you hear your kids listening to it first before you get to it, and you're like, oh, so this is what they're listening to.
All right, so I'm going to pose that same question to Charlotte as it relates to that engagement that you have as a family unit. What is the one music possibly that if you put it on, your entire clan is going to come running and everybody's just having a good family time?
Honestly, it's going to be Michael Jackson songs, because my older children, even when they started taking dance classes and tapping and things like that, they started to learn to tap to Michael Jackson songs. And so like one of my middle children, like she loves Michael Jackson, but everybody in our house likes Michael Jackson. Usually if it came from like the Thriller album or the Rock With You album, it's hands down a Michael Jackson song.
Love it. Hands down, a Michael Jackson song. When we come back after the break, I remember some of those good dance moves that Michael Jackson used to do. But we want to talk a little bit more about family and food and music and culture. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
You heard why we're marching, and it's really a launch. It's not even a march. We're launching.
That's right.
A 42-week campaign. March the 2nd at 10 o'clock in Raleigh and 33 other state capitals and the District of Columbia. This is a historic move to mobilize the most powerful untapped block of voters in this country. That's right. Poor and low wealth voters, who make up 87 million votes. And it's never been tried before. Never been tried before in history. At the same time, same message, same focus. And when that power turns loose, they will not be able to figure out the political calculus. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to shake things up. I'm ready to get up out of the valley. I'm ready for God to put his spirit on us. I'm ready to be used to change this nation. And what we're saying is, can't we come together? Can't we come together around an agenda? You ain't got to like everything about Rembaba. You don't have to like everything about Sangria. You don't have to like everything about Long Choir. But can we come together and say, it's time to end poverty as the fourth leading cause of death? It's time to have $15 and a living wage indexed with inflation. So every time inflation goes up, the minimum wage goes up. It's time to have health care for all. It's time to fully fund public education. Can't we come together? It's time to protect women's right to women's health. It's time to have affordable housing for everybody. It's time to stop the proliferation of guns. Ain't no way folk ought to be able to have more guns than they have food, more guns than they have meat on their table. That makes no sense. Isn't it time for division to be ended and love to take over? Can't we organize around that? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I don't need to like everything about you, but can't we organize for power? Can't we stand for justice? Can't we love everybody for just a little while? Can't we come up out of the valley? Can these bones live?
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can see, there is no shortage of our understanding and embracing of culture. We love music, but in addition to music, we love to have family time. I want to invite Dr. Tierney in for a moment to talk about how we engage as a family around the good times that we're having. Hey, Dr. T.
Hey, Dr. J.
Ooh, child. So let's just say when it comes to family and culture and music and food, there are so many times to gather. And as you are helping people move into this season of being able to gather together, how are you helping them level up around those things that make us who we are as a people?
So one of the things that I really focus on, just myself personally, and I help my clients to focus on, is going back to the roots. Going back to our roots. That could be our family roots, that could be cultural roots, that could be music roots. But what are things, the people, the spaces, the environments that have fed you and helped to make you into the person that you are right now? And some of those roots we may want to examine because they may be the best thing in the world, but a lot of those roots have nurtured us in such an amazing way that we want to make sure that we're continuing to draw from those spaces. Sometimes it might mean that I just need to go and sit on my cousin's couch, and just say, hey, girl, hey, sometimes it may mean that we need to get together around the dinner table as a family, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be the big family reunions or, the big cultural events that we tend to remember and, earmark. A lot of the things that we remember, especially when we're thinking about our loved ones that have passed on, oftentimes we're telling those stories about those off the cuff moments. The time we were playing dominoes at the house, or, just the time that we were doing nothing and just sitting together, but just being together in those spaces. So making sure that we're continuing to do that, continuing to make that a priority, continuing to allow that to feed us definitely helps us as we're going along our journeys in life. I tell people all the time, there's Dr. Tierney, then there's tyranny. And sometimes tyranny just needs to go home. Tyranny just needs to go home, regroup, get loved on her people so that Dr. Tierney can come back stronger, wiser, energized, and continue to run the race that has been laid before me. And so teaching that to my clients helps them to continue on in their level of pursuits because they know that those roots are always there, feeding them, giving what they need, and they can tap into them whenever they need to.
I love that, because another part of our roots that really makes me happy is the times that we gather around the table. I want to invite Chef Rocky into this conversation. Hey, Chef.
Hey. Good
I am so excited that you're here because as Dr. Tierney was talking about these roots, I really began to think about all the times that we would go home and have this gathering around the table. So not only do we dance in the kitchen, we have some of our most amazing conversations around food and prep and, learning all these good recipes. Talk to us about a little bit about what's happening, in your space in restaurant world, but also what is it like to cook with family and how does that help us with our culture and being able to be together and just enjoy life and living?
Dr. T, you raised a great point in going to the roots. And I don't know if I was consciously aware of it. I was reminded of it recently when I was in a funk last year. And, I was talking to my therapist and she said, what were you excited about when you were 12 years old? We went a little deeper and this deep diving. And I decided in my work and at home that I would do some of the things that excited me as a youth. And in that moment, like even if it was just cooking a dish that, like some salmon cakes was one of the dishes that I love. And there's nothing super special to it. But while I was making it, my mother was here. I'm looking at my kitchen right now. I felt this wave of emotion coming over me. And we hadn't even eaten it yet, but it was the idea that I was connecting to, and the salmon cake and the time and the conversation was connected to that memory, that good feeling that before, it was about money or anything else. Mm-hmm. This was something that resonated deeply in my soul. I can't even say my heart, my soul. So I really think I always encourage people to look beneath the recipes and chefs to go deeper than the food, because really, as great at cooks as we think we are, we're operating, we're pulling from something way, way deeper than the food. So, and that's what's important about gathering. The food is super important. We love getting at the table, but when we think about what happened, the conversations, much of that stuff is buried in the subconscious. But the conversations, the feeling, the security that we felt in the kitchen at the table, that's really what I try to do in my work daily and try to get other people to do as well.
Man, you bring up a very valid point. I mean, just that resonating moment that I had with you right then was the times that we do spend in the kitchen learning how to make a shortbread cookie, something we don't use anymore, or maybe not as often, Clabber Girl, just learning how things work in the kitchen and the life lessons that are there. Chef Rock, talk to us a little bit about some of the life lessons when we gather together in the kitchen, sharing recipes, preparing the meals. What are some of those moments that we can really learn to embrace and pass on to this generation?
Well, first of all, I looked. I'm in my studio here. I got some Clabber Girl around here, but it's not right here, so it's still in action. You rest assured. I'll draw on it. There's so many memories, but just yesterday, I'm hanging with my son. He's 12 years old, so he's in that preteen era, and I'm really trying to find. And he's, the new generation, so I'm trying to find ways to connect with him and make sure that he has life skills. And this is just he and I, which is not like the sort of the typical picture of cooking, right? We think about aunts and grandmothers and moms, but we were in the kitchen. Went by the store. He said he wanted some lemonade or some soda. I said, I ain't buying that, bro. That's too much. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you how to make lemonade like your grandmother used to make it, and it'll taste better and it's cheaper. So we came in, took a couple lemons, some sugar, water, hot water. Like I gave him the whole recipe. We did it together. I'm videoing it, which is something I wouldn't traditionally do, but that gives him, I'm coming into his world. And we talk about, we even talk about science. I pull out the scale so he can see. We talked about volume and count and weighted measure. And then we also just talked about, like, listen, son, I'm not going to be here all the time. You're going to be 20 something like your brother. And I want you to be able to do little things so you don't have to rely on any other human being. I can cook and clean and iron my clothes and sew up a little bit. And, years ago, he would like, yeah, I saw him and it made me feel so good. A brother wanted to cry. I was like, oh, I got him, God. We're going to make lemonade every week. And those are some things that, again, I probably took for granted with my grandmother, my mother, but those are the interactions, the small things that you learn in that kitchen. And it might be about school or relationships, but it happens there when at the end, we know we got to get to that lemonade, and he thoroughly enjoyed it, and so did I.
I think that those are the precious moments. You know, we have a sign in our kitchen that says we dance in this kitchen. Now, every now and then, Rock, I may throw a little something together, but we spend most of our time in our kitchen fellowshipping, socializing, and like you said, having those teachable moments. Dr. Tierney, for our parents and families that may be watching and, you know, they're looking for these teachable moments. A lot of times we tell our kids to get out the kitchen, you know, go and sit around somewhere. How important is it to build memories?
It is critical. It's critical to build those memories because as Chef just said, when those children go on to be 20, 30, I can tell you right now, as a 40-year-old, I'm drawing on those memories. I'm drawing on the times that I sat with my grandfather. Again, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So barbecuing is like a religion, you know, in Memphis. And so the time that I sat with him and learned his technique of barbecuing and just those days of just sitting there and the low and slow process. But those were the times where he talked to me about life and make these amazing analogies between these ribs and how it applies to how we should move through life. And I find myself now drawing on those lessons, drawing on that foundation. So when we don't give our children that, when we don't take the time to make the lemonade, when we don't find those teachable moments, be it with cookies, be it whatever it is, then what we're doing, we're limiting that foundation that they'll have to draw from. That when they get to their 20s and their 30s, they won't be able to say, well, wait, no, because mama said it'll be days like this. That told me when we were stirring that lemonade that this might happen, that my friends might do this, or I might feel lonely sometimes, but it's okay. So it's critical that we make sure that we were taking that time when they're young, so that when they get older, it'll automatically just replay back in their head. So it's really
absolutely
important.
Charlotte, Avery, come on in for a second, because you do something and have the patience of Job. How do you, with 7 people in your house, manage to do all of those things, especially cook with your kids? And that's something that I know that you all do, and they love that quality time.
So yes, I love, love, love our kitchen time together. I just really, really cherish it. And one of the reasons why is, you know, one of the first things that I ever learned to cook from my dad was chicken and dumplings. And as Chef Rock was talking, you know, about his time with his son and the lemonade, it made me, I almost, you know, my eyeballs almost started sweating because I remember the first time my dad taught me how to make chicken and dumplings. And he took it like all the way, like buying the whole chicken, making me learn to cut up a chicken and, you know, making the dumplings from scratch and all that. And I will tell you, I have not cut up a whole chicken ever again in my life, because I can buy a chicken and that's already chopped. But, you know, just thinking about that, you know, when he was saying that, it reminded me of that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not one of those moms who kicks my kids out of the kitchen. Like, I want them there. I want my boys and my girls to learn the things that I want them to learn how to make the things that they like to eat, because one day they might not be living with me and their dad, and I won't be the one cooking for them. And so, and like I tell my son all the time, I'm like, you need to tell me all the things that you want to learn how to cook that I cook for you, so that you know, if you get married or, you know, you have a girlfriend or something, that you're not wishing, oh, I wish I'd learned how to cook this, or you're not longing for your mama's food. And so, you know, I bring everybody in the kitchen, and, you know, because I have so many kids, unless we're like all together, like usually, like if I'm making a cake, you know, I have somebody in charge of the sugar, I have somebody in charge of the baking soda, I have somebody in charge of the eggs, and, you know, somebody's blending it and all of that. And I'm standing there and we just get to enjoy that time together. And you know what? I don't usually like get so flustered about, oh, somebody spilled this or somebody broke an egg and it didn't go in the bowl. It's on the counter. I'm just like, let's just go get another egg, but really like not lately, because now, you know, eggs are like $1.5 million a dozen. So anyway, but, you know, I say all that to say that, you know, I enjoy that time and my kids love it. And the thing is that also turns into their love for cooking. And so my children, they will not only like cook for themselves, but my children will cook for each other. I mean, I have one she is like the shorthand chef on a Saturday for our family members. And she'll ask everybody, like all of her siblings, like, what do you want for breakfast today? And she'll make them whatever they say, even before she eats herself. And so I just find that to be just so interesting and so loving. And I just enjoy it because I know that I'm not going to have that time with them forever. And so I am really, really intentional about maximizing the moments with my children for as much as I can get them. Because, you know, my son is in college, my daughter's getting ready to go. And I'm like, maybe God allowed me to have 7 children so that I could still remember when they were sweet and said yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And, you know, they still wanted to love me and hug me, because my younger children are like that. Oh, mommy, I love you, you know, but my older children, they're still the same way, but it's just different. And so because I get to see their different stages of life, I mean, I have 5 teenagers right now. Like, who does that? But anyway, I digress. But just knowing, you know, their cycles of life and everything, when it comes to cooking together and having time at the dinner table, like I'm really a stickler about us eating dinner together. And sometimes that means that we're going to eat dinner a little bit later because somebody has practice. But it's important for us to be around the table together and in the kitchen together so we can talk about life and the goings-ons of the day, the week, or just something that's on their heart or some lesson that I'm trying to teach them. And so, I mean, I adore and I really cherish the time with my children in the kitchen with me.
I think that those are great ways to build memories. When we come back after the break, let's have a little bit more time to talk about as we gather together. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Check this out. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are investing a record $7 billion into HBCUs. Billions for campus improvements, grants, and debt relief. Billions more for HBCUs. Endless possibilities for us.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can tell, gathering together is a very big part of who we are and what we do, whether we gather around music at a concert, whether or not we're hanging out in the park or just in our kitchen, in our living room, or even in our backyard. These are the ways in which we embrace who we are and love on ourselves and love on our family members. Let's talk about that for a moment. I want to ask Dee Barnes a couple of questions because earlier on, Dee mentioned something related to music that sort of resonated with me in the sense of she's saying, you know, she kept her mama's music, and that's where we first learned. Dee, share with us about how important it is to introduce our kids to a variety of genres as we opened up with our amazing playlist.
Yes, I think that is so important. I mean, that's basically like oral history. That's what we're passing down to our children, and knowledge of music and the knowledge of our culture in particular, because, you know, African Americans in this country, we've come up with genre after genre after genre that gets spilled over into, you know, other cultures, but it came from us. And so I love like sharing that with my daughters in particular, so they have a lot of knowledge of of what the original was, what the original artist was, if they're listening to something, if they hear a remake of something. Like I was listening to everyone, and definitely besides the kitchen area, when we sit down to eat, that's a time when my daughters and I, we have great conversations, and I get to know, what they're thinking, what's on their mind. I have, this Gen Z with me, and just knowing what they're thinking and what they're listening to, and their thoughts on politics, music, and their thoughts on culture. It's very important. I love gathering like that. And then my mom taught me a lot of her musical love and history. So I love passing that down to my daughters. And then they introduced a lot of music to me too, which I like. One of the other things that we love to do in particular is go to shows together, live performances, and I'll go to a concert where they'll pick the artists, and they'll introduce me to that, and I can tell them how I feel about that, and I love taking them to shows, people from my generation, and so it's an exchange of knowledge, and I think that's important with us in particular, to share that with our kids, and to to bring the generations together.
That's an amazing opportunity for generations to be able to come together. I have seen, and I don't know how well I would do with that, going to a live show, with my young person, knowing that it's probably how they would feel if they went to a live show with me. But that is one of the ways that we can keep community and culture together. I remember, when Beyonce did the sampling of Frankie Beverly's song, and, Homecoming was built somewhat off of that. Dee, talk to us about that for a moment, related to how that really did pull multiple generations together.
That was amazing. That really was amazing, because that's something that, you play at the cookout. You play at the family reunion gathering. So seeing artists, someone such as Beyonce do that, it really opens up the door and opens up your mind to other genres, to other music. And my daughters are a huge, Beyonce fans. So her doing that. And it's funny because they had already heard that at their grandmother's house. They've already heard the song. They knew it very well at all of the family functions. So, I love when an artist does it. I love when an artist takes something from the original artist and then recreates it and, makes it new again, makes it new and fresh. I love that.
I can appreciate that sentiment. Hey, Chef Rock, let's talk about something new and fresh as it relates to food. Tell us something that you have made that was something traditional and you've put your own spin on it, because sometimes food tastes different when it has, the new spin and twist on it.
Yes. Well, that happens often in my kitchen because, I went to culinary school, and my mother often reminds me that she paid for the culinary school. So don't go changing stuff or thinking I'm a better cook. One of the things, and this might be obvious because I do it for a living, but a restaurant, we serve fried chicken, which is a celebratory meal that we grew up on, that my grandmother had a recipe, my mother has one. One of the changes, there's several changes I made, but one of them is that I add duck fat to the oil, right? So duck is a fatty bird, and usually we just use regular oil, but it adds a certain richness, and that's sort of that French influence that I got probably from James Hemings or something. But that's one slight change. It's a little more luxurious and overindulgent, but that's one slight change that I made to that very common celebratory dish, fried chicken. I add duck fat to it.
So in addition to the duck fat, does that make, and I'm not asking if it makes it crispier, but I have noticed that some chicken skin is crispy and some is just chicken skin. Yeah. How do we fix that? Because we all love chicken, and if you bite into it and it doesn't have like that fried chicken crunch, you'd be like, who brought the potato salad? Who brought the macaroni and cheese? Who brought this chicken?
Listen, now you're speaking my language. So I would try not to, I nerd out generally when talking about fried chicken, because it's one of those, people think that you can just throw it in there, and we all know that it doesn't all come out the same. As far as a crispy skin, there's a couple of things you can do. One, your oil has to be the right temperature. Do not overcrowd the pan. So if you're using a pan, or you can't see it right here, I have a little deep fryer. If you're using a deep fryer, make sure that you only put a few pieces in there at a time. So the thermostat or the pan is 350 degrees, but when you put a cold piece of chicken in there, it drops it tremendously, and it needs to recover. So if it doesn't recover quickly, you get this sort of limp, sort of soft skin, and by the time the chicken is cooked all the way in, you need constant 350, 340 degrees. So proper heat maintenance. The other thing, it's a little secret I'm giving y'all right here, exclusive on A Balanced Life, is this is what I do. In my restaurant, I've done it for years. I did it back at B. Smith's. You go from cold, let's just say water, whatever it's in, marinade or whatever, it has to be really, really cold. The chicken goes from there to your cold flour, right? I don't care whether it's in a brown paper bag or not, and then into the oil. So make sure it's cold. And I don't know the exact science, but the coldness going with that hot oil really, really helps with a crispy chicken. And it also means that you're going to have to fry less, because if you put a bunch of cold chicken in there, it's going to drop that temperature and you get soggy. So exclusive tip on crispier skin right there. Boom.
Buttermilk or regular milk?
I rarely ever use buttermilk. I always use like a water brine. Buttermilk people use it. It's more expensive than I think it needs to be. So I just use like salt, water is the basic minimum. And then we can add some sugar and seasonings for me.
Sounds yummy. I love all of this. It gives us an opportunity to really think about how do we prepare and get ready for some of the festivities and activities we're going to be doing during this Black History Month celebration. I know people are doing cookouts. They're out there grilling. Charlotte Avery and Dr. Tierney, join us for a moment, because I want to hear, what's your favorite dish? So everybody come on in. Tell me your favorite dish that you're bringing to the Black History Month celebration. Dr. T.
I'm bringing my granddaddy's Memphis slow and low ribs. That's what
she said, slow and low.
That's what I'm bringing. Yep. He taught me how to do it. You can either have the smoke style, but he taught me how to grill over the coals, which is a whole different technique, because you can't leave it. You got to stand there, watch it, turn it. And the secret is in the smoke. So I'm not telling you what I do to my smoke. That is a trade secret. If Rock giving away secrets, I'm not giving away no secrets. I'm not doing it. But it's all about in what you do with your smoke, how you manage your heat, and make sure you prep your meat properly. Yeah,
all right, slow and low. Okay, slow and low from Dr. Tierney. Charlotte Avery, what you bringing?
So I'm bringing fried chicken for them and fried cauliflower for me. And I'm bringing some macaroni and cheese.
All right. So I know I have a few minutes left. Baked macaroni and cheese or cheesy macaroni and cheese?
That's not even a question, is it? It's baked all day, right?
Baked.
You got to bake it.
Gotta bake it.
I just thought I'd ask. I don't eat mac and cheese, so I just thought I would ask. I do. No, ma'am.
What?
No. Okay. I do not. D, what are you bringing?
I'm bringing dessert. No one mentioned dessert. I'm bringing sweet potato pie and red velvet. Because that's all I can make.
Well, no, I think that's good. So sweet potato pie and red velvet.
I don't have the other skills.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But you mentioned one of my favorites, which is red velvet. So are you doing a cream cheese? Or are you doing, and I know I'm bringing up buttermilk again. Oh, no, sour cream. So is it sour cream cheese, or is it just regular Philly cream cheese?
I like the regular Philly cream cheese. I'm not gonna lie. I like the cream cheese.
As y'all can tell, I like to eat. I may not do a lot of cooking, but I know what y'all talking about when y'all bring the food to the table.
Same thing. I can't do all of that special thing y'all be doing with the smoked barbecue and this, but I was taking down some notes, so I might try it, after today. But the dessert, I got y'all.
All right, then, Chef, what you bringing?
Well, okay, so I think most people expect me to bring fried chicken. However, I'll switch it up. I will bring, because the number one question at the cookouts is, who made the potato salad? And I'm that bold. I'm a big thinker. And I think my potato salad is cooked out, certified by the Black delegation. I'm bringing the potato salad because you either gonna be talking about me whispering, or you're gonna say that potato salad was all right. And I'll tell you another little tip. I just did this function on Saturday. We like mayonnaise-based potato salads. I made one that was sort of like a vinaigrette base with heavier Dijon, a little bit of honey, and cuts down on the calories, no mayo. And also, we like to leave potato salad out for about 4-6 hours. Not the safest as a tip, So when we don't have temperature control, I like this Dijon sort of vinaigrette-based potato salad compared with the other one, because hopefully nobody gets, it doesn't. If it stays out for a few hours, it'll be okay. But I'm bringing potato salad.
I appreciate you bringing the potato salad. I'm going to tell you, if it's not yellow, I'm not eating it. So I do not eat mayonnaise-based potato salad. I grew up in Texas, and that is what is in potato salad is just not a thing. And so I love everything that each of you have said. I believe that as we are preparing for some of our occasions, we are going to be prepared and ready. I'll be back with my reflections after the break.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, living this life is amazing. We are in this space of history and culture filled with music and good times, whether we're dancing in our kitchens, hanging out at the cookout, having some low and slow ribs, or eating some amazing red velvet cake. This is who we are, and it's what we do. I hope that as you are planning all of your celebrations this month, that you will enjoy living a balanced life with good people and good food. Bye now.